of us.
Yeah.
So
I remember when we first knew that this was what we wanted to do. Before we even wrote the script, I called up Mads and we had a meeting. And I said to Mads, this is the story. We're about to write the script. Do you like the idea? And do you want to play the role? And he said, yes, I'll play the role if you write a good script. So it was of course, it wasn't just like based on my brown eyes. But after delivering the script, I mean, I think you and the three of us spent a lot of time with Mads also, just brainstorming, just having ideas about character stuff. And later we also did with Amanda.
Do you want to say what you said when you called up me?
I don't remember what I said. What did I say when I called you?
I said, it's a movie, it's period, and it's Mads. And I said,
I'm in, you said. Yeah.
Maybe Mads.
Maybe Mads.
Right. Yeah, for us, I think, as Thomas said as well, I think we're just used to in Denmark. We get surprised when people don't work like this. We did it from the beginning. We always do it to more or less degree, depending on the director and the writer. But for us to dive into the material together is important. It might not be a ton of changes, but for us it's important that we're on the same page once we start filming. So if I have a ton of questions, they might just be easily answered. Or if not, we might just correct a few things. And so when we start on the first day, we don't spend too much time discussing what this is all about.
C'è una domanda qui davanti e poi ancora dietro.
Hello, I'm from Denmark, and it's a pleasure to be here. So you're a little bit into it. This is a cast and a Danish production, which is entirely Nordic. It therefore has some lack of diversity, you would say, as also new rules are implied in Hollywood.
What are you on to?
Sorry, but
from the get-go.
From the get-go, there is set some rules of diversity across the Atlantic for competing in the best picture, the equivalent to this competition. As I see it, you don't live up to these standards with this broadcast, and there is just curious. It's not because of artistic reasons; it's because of lack of diversity that this can't compete in that competition. Are you worried about that?
Are you? I'm serious and honest because you're putting us on the spot. So yeah, you answer the question.
No, because I have in comparison Parasite, which is a great.
What do you think?
I was thinking that Parasite, which is a great movie coming from South Korea, had the same level of diversity, but coming from South Korea, this was actually still eligible for the competition. You, as a Danish movie with an all-Nordic cast, is not. And that's what I think is a little bit conundrum here.
I don't understand the question.
Okay.
Well, first of all, the film takes place in Denmark in the 1750s.
Yeah.
We do have a big plot line, you know, about a girl of color who is being subjected to racism.
Okay.
And you know, and which was very rare. Any people of color in Denmark in
Yes.
almost nobody. She was probably at the time the only one in the entire country of Denmark. So it was. I would say that it hasn't been. It wasn't a thought in our mind that I think it would be a little weird. You know, if it's just a historical
Exactly.
how it was in the 1750s.
That's also what I was portraying for.
Yeah. Cool.
Luis,
yeah, I think you raise an interesting question. In my opinion, I've been a producer for many, many years, and I think we are all discussing these things, and I think all populations needs diversity, creativity, and pluralism in the art.
Yes.
We have to give a mirror of the society around us. So that's really important for all art to give these three things. In my opinion, it's a failure if we want to put this into every single film. Because if every single film gets all the diversity into the single films, then all films becomes the same. So it's very important. I mean, we are filmmakers. Nikolaj, in this with this film, is telling his view on a specific story, and it's the people who makes the rules, the institutions, that needs to take into concern that when we have made 100 films in Denmark, those 100 films needs to be as diverse, as creative, as plural as the society around us, but never put all the diversity into one piece, because then everything becomes the same. Thank you.
Prego.
Hello, this is Yanis again. Sorry, I have one more question. Maybe the screenwriter could answer it. What impressed me in the film is the way, the easiness in which the landowner tortures people, kills people, throws people from the windows. It's. I was wondering, because it really impressed me. Is it based on facts or is it pure fiction? Those particular scenes of torturing and killing, no matter if they're innocent or ex-convicts or whatever. The easiness with which he kills, he takes human lives.
The answer is both yes and no, because there was a notorious landowner at that time called the Shingle, who was known for he was known for punishing his farmers, his peasants, extremely hard, and I think also killing them. But we know very little about it. So there's only one quote from him we know today, and we know nothing of him. So we took that, that little historic quote and sort of built the character from that. And the quote is, he actually says it in the film. He says, "You have to live good lives, but most of all, I have to live a very good life." And that's the quote that survived. So I'm sure he hasn't been like this. The whole thing with his father, the whole psychology, we don't know, but I guess he's done some nasty things. So a little bit of it is real.
Historically, there was some quite horrific, punishment of the workers, farmers in that time. But some landowners, were more decent, and some were more, brutal, as is the case with every human being. There are different kind of human beings, but the ways of torturing, those are real. Those are research. Those were actual ways. Yeah, that was so.
Ecco, mi chiedevo se appunto in questo caso il film è basato sul romanzo, che a sua volta è basato su una storia vera, se in questo caso gli attori, lavorano esclusivamente sulla sceneggiatura o personalmente sentono il bisogno comunque di fare delle ricerche sul periodo storico, sui personaggi che eventualmente rappresentano, incarnano.
I can start. Mm-hmm. Because I love that question. There's a very strong energy in the book, and like Nikolaj says, it's almost like you can taste and feel and hear the nature, and in the same way I feel like you can, at least for Anne Barbara, taste and feel and hear her when you read the book. Of course, then there's a big transition of pushing away the book and reading a script instead. But I think we all did a beautiful collaboration in maintaining that energy of Anne Barbara, and that includes Nikolaj, but also the team around me, hair and makeup and costume and set and everything. I at least felt a huge collaborative in building this character on me, which was very nice to experience. Yeah.
I deliberately didn't read the book until I read the script. For me, it's important that what Nikolaj and Thomas came up with is our base, our Bible. That's what we are working from. Once we know where that story is going, I might sneak peek in the book and see if there's some inspiration there that we didn't get on the page. And I also Googled him. It turned out he was a lieutenant and not a captain. Okay. And I kind of liked that he was lying himself to be a captain, but we kept him as a real captain, right? No, I think that the story, her story is fiction based on something, and our story is fiction based on her fiction. So for us, this is our story. And if I start, like, what about the guy with the blonde hair. What about the cow? That was so important.
That was me. What about the cow?
And so for me, this is what we were working from, and so I deliberately didn't.
Simone?
I used my energy on the character from the script. I didn't think so much about Frederick from real life. I was taking him out of the book and taking him as near to me as I could, and blowing some air into him. Yeah.
Ci sono domande? Prego. No, per le traduttrici serve il microfono.
Hello. My question is just a curiosity. Since it's a costume movie, how do you work on costumes, on scenography? Do you do research? Do you have some indications, historical or in the book, maybe?
Yes, what we did was we collected a lot of paintings, very famous actually Danish paintings that were done in the period. There was painters who had painted these people on the heath and the various, so we used that a lot for the costumes and for the colors and everything. And of course, the trick as a director is to hire a great costume designer and a great, because then you can relax, because she really did all the big work and researched and did huge books of, colors and costumes. So she was wonderful, Kiki, in sort of making sure that it felt real and the colors were fitting, so the universe I was envisioning.
C'è ancora una domanda lì? Sì.
Yeah, hello. I'm a psychologist and I do cinematography, and I have a question for the actress and for the actors. What did you learn about yourself during this journey, and what's yours in this story, in this character? Thank you.
Do you want to start? I'm so curious to your answer.
This is going to sound pretentious, obviously, but if I play Einstein, I have to be smarter than him. I'm not going to learn something from the character. I have to be on top of it, together with the director, the author, and figure out what is his flaw, what is the mirror reflection of Einstein that he can't see clearly himself. That's what we're trying to bring to life, as an actor, as a director. And so I'm not going to learn, but I'm obviously going to carry something I thought about. But the idea that a character would drag me somewhere where I don't know where it's going, I find it a little. That's not how we make films. We're shoving it somewhere that we think is interesting. Obviously, in this case, with this character I'm playing now, he doesn't need anyone. He doesn't want anyone. He's absolutely 100% sure he doesn't. And then he gets surprised later on in life. I have to know that from the get-go as an actor. So I love being with him. I don't know if I learned something from him.
Amanda?
Yeah, well, that was interesting because I'm the complete opposite. I feel like when we work, like I said before, I surrender completely into Nikolaj, into the story, and to Mads also. And in that free fall, it's purely intuition that takes over, and I try to leave my head behind. And then 6 months or a year or maybe even 2 years or now here, there are many things that I can see like, oh, that was so interesting that we did that, because this has integrated in my life now. And so I always feel like I learn a great deal about my parts, and I'm always so excited to see which one I'm about to play, because it filters together. So I'm happy I'm not playing a psychopath anymore. So you can make of that what you want.
Simon?
Yeah, I think maybe I learned that I got this theory from working with that I don't believe so much in evil intentions. Like, I believe you can do evil and horrible things, but maybe the intention of doing it is not to be evil, it's to hurt someone or get something in return, or being admired or feared or something. And that was kind of new in my brain, that way of looking at the world.
Il tempo a nostra disposizione è finito, grazie.
Thank you.
Grazie.